I want to talk about the Philosopher's Stone, which in alchemy is the tool. Metaphorical, real. I think it's about pretty much the same, because when we are performing the magic that becomes the liquid stuff, the paint, the alchemical paint for the magic that will become the painting, the manifestation, we got to realize that we're using physical and spiritual matter at the same time. That it really isn't one different. When we're transforming matter, what have we transformed? Have we made something physical spiritual? Have we made something spiritual physical? Have we changed something to become something that wasn't? I want to talk about these things because as I go along and go deeper into alchemy, I think that even maybe viewpoints that I've had before will shift as I continue to learn more about what alchemy is and what anything is, really. Because the more that I learn, it's not as if I or you or anyone has perceived something wrong, anything wrong. It's more like the more that you learn, the more expanded that your mind becomes. You have more of a platform, more of an expansion, more of a vessel to identify and hold more information, which gives you more contrast, more of a perspective. So for example, what I once thought might have been a literal example might all of a sudden, as I expand and grow with what I'm learning, dawn on me that it's actually a metaphorical example, or vice versa. Or really, if I'm going to really try and break it down, I got to tell you that I'm not going to be able to break anything down, because as soon as I break it all the way down, it's going to come back and break me down. I think that's the whole purpose of people trying to wrap their minds in the quantum physics, quantum mechanical world of science, around the fact that as things come out and become, they also go back and become not. As it comes above, it also, as soon as you reach the highest of above, the ceiling becomes the floor, and it just kind of, I think of it like the spiral seems to have this, but I think of it as like the black hole. Well, I'm going to draw it. That's what I'm going to like. I think of it as some kind of vacuum-esque thing, where I mean, you could think of it as like the infinity symbol, but I like to think more that it's got it's more than the infinity symbol, because I don't even know. Maybe? But more like if this was a cup, and it is an infinity symbol, but I want to really mostly to have two parts going. I don't know how I'm going to do this. That's a shape. Anyway. I've been doing more research, and I'm going to continue, because I just think that there's going to be no stop. There's no ending, which is kind of the basis for this shape that I'm trying to talk about. It's like a cup, like a chalice, where, you know, almost like an hourglass shape, because in the middle it's funneled, and at the ends it's wide, and somehow the ends of the wideness are the same. And as I've been researching, I realized that a lot of people talk about the basic things and can get deep into alchemy, but at one point it's similarly to quantum physics, mechanics, all those things, quantum anything in science. it becomes really difficult to talk about what your mind starts to kind of perceive, because I think mind starts to maybe perceive shapes. We call them shapes, movements or something, which really are just symbols. They're symbolic for something that we're understanding, or that you're understanding, that is difficult to describe, because it's stuff that isn't covered very much in this earth, space, time thing, dimension. But it's true. In the art of transformation of matter, I mean, what are we made of? We're like physical stuff. Fingers. Physical. You know, I can feel that. I can feel emotionally when somebody, you know, like, or, I can feel that emotionally. That's a kind of a physical response too. What's been really described is that alchemy is philosophy, spirituality, and science all kind of wrapped up in one, because it exists on all the planes that you could imagine. Scientifically, it holds itself. It's really, really similar to some of the quantum sciences that can be really congruent with alchemy. Obviously, it has some kind of chemical way about it too, which really goes into, you know, the physical world. Spiritually, that's how I've taken it from the beginning and ran with it. Spiritual. I find it to be spiritual because it exists to me like more of a, and when I say dream, I don't really mean dream as in going to sleep and having a dream, but as in a perception of a different level of awareness, which is where we go when we dream. A plane. Spirituality to me is just, it means a plane, a parallel plane of some sort, which is permeating to this plane, and from which we can sense, but not in any kind of physical way, but in a philosophical way, we can talk about it. And so that's the other part about it, is philosophically, it is expressed through language and art and thought. Philosophically, we can wrap ourselves around this spiritual idea of it, and scientifically, we can see how alchemy permeates our world from either the idea of it or the scientifically unexplained actuality of it. Because quantum physics has proved nothing, but it's proved a lot by proving nothing. Through the double slit experiment, that electrons are fascinating things, and that they're capable of behaving similarly to what would seem like magic, behaving in a way that they could shapeshift themselves in a way that would seem impossible, like walking on water. Literally, the double slit experiment involved the use of light rays, or they call photons, and also then they used all sorts of different types of matter, or even so they used a lot of types of matter, or like photons, which isn't really matter, you know, And matter usually behaves like matter. Matter would be a ring, a thread of hair. Matter is something. And something like light or a photon is kind of more of like, well, obviously we haven't really discovered exactly what it is, but these photons were projected through this experiment and were behaving like water, like waves, but had the capacity as well, because water doesn't quite behave like matter, solid matter. Liquid matter behaves differently than solid matter. And so water will make waves, whereas matter will make maybe holes. And the capability of the light photons was to, in the double slit experiment, behave like waves and like solid matter. So it was able to make waves and holes, and the variable as to why they were able to do both, because they were not doing both at the same time. Maybe they were eventually, maybe I didn't get deep enough into it, but what was happening is that these photons, these light rays, were able to either make the pattern of what solid matter would make, or make the pattern of what liquid matter would make, depending on their own fucking choice. What the experiment says is that the photons, when observed by whether it was a human, or an organic human, energy force, or a plant, an energy force, or whether it was an inert, as we think it, object, like a rudimentary camera with nobody around. But these photons would behave differently depending on whether they were being observed or not. Now, I don't know exactly how they found out how they were doing something differently when they were being observed. Oh, I think they did, because okay. So what this means is that these electrons make up the photons, the light rays, were making decisions. And so, and their decisions had a lot to do with the relationship that they inferred was happening. For example, if they didn't think that they were being watched, they would make the wave pattern like liquid matter would. And if they did think that they were being watched, they would make the hole pattern, the holes, like solid matter would make. And so then one had to wonder, why were they making choices based upon, because obviously, they put a camera in there with no bodies to observe it, no organic matter. It didn't matter if it was a houseplant or a human or a freaking camera, They might have known that somebody was going behind it to watch that later. It's just a level of intelligence that nobody can explain in the science world. Now, I don't think anybody can explain anything anywhere, and I don't think it really matters. Pun thrown in and intended with unintentional geekiness. But I think that I believe that there is a lot of learning that we as human beings need to accept into our lives that we are not accepting, which is, in the science world, we need to accept some of the levels of the unknown as being a righteous righteous thing to invest our time in, rather than throwing things aside in a way. I'm not saying that they do, but, you know, disregarding things because they don't match up to the perfect scientific experiment, you know, structure. So when it comes to alchemy, yes, alchemy touches many different places, but it's not talked about as forthright or forwardly, and therefore some of the principles that occur within alchemy are difficult to explain because we have not expanded our brain enough to wrap around what that is. And so then when I say that the more that I learn, you know, it's harder to explain things, and I might change my mind, or you might change your mind the more that you learn, which is wonderful. I love for everybody to start thinking and exploring the unknown things, philosophies and sciences, and the unknown feelings, like spiritual feelings, because the more people that there are, the more mass that we have to talk about things that are happening but not provable, and not really the better that we're going to have an understanding through many different people than we are just sitting alone talking to ourselves, which works. All right. I have a quote for you. And I can't identify who said this. I got it from a video. I'll try and post it in the description. Time as a child. This is Theros, who roams through the dark regions of the cosmos. So let me start this again, because Theros, I don't really know who that is, but I want it to be congruent the way I say it. Time is a child. This is Theros, who roams through the dark regions of the cosmos and glows like a star out of the depths. He points the way to the gates of the sun and to the land of dreams. I think this is the Philosopher's Stone. You can think whatever you want. I would love you to think something different and we could talk about it. There's another quote I have. Your vision can only become clear when you look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. Now that is powerful. So, I've talked a lot about the dark and going into the dark to actually summon and invoke the light within you. I do believe that is true, but I've talked about it really literally, and I want to talk about it more metaphorically now. I mean, because I guess it's all in one, but I just believe that maybe I've been talking about the dark as being places that you go put yourself into situations that have dark energy, and you navigate through that in order to provoke and evoke things. I think that's wise. I'm going to go in a different direction now and talk about maybe going into yourself. And honestly, I do feel like some people will need other people to go into their own dark inside themselves, because at least in the beginning, you'll need to be able to identify or have a comparison or have something to bounce stuff off of. But there is a cosmos inside of us. I'm going to say it again. This is going to become redundant, but it's alchemy. You know, it's in all the alchemical, you know, texts. This as above, so below. This is the quantum physics too. As above, so below. This is like that shape I'm trying to describe to you. It is an infinity shape, but it's like this cup that overflows, and the flow like a fountain seeps down and comes back up, and it just forever cycles. You know, it's like anything that's happening outside is going to affect your inside And so the difficult thing for human beings, and actually it can be more difficult now, but it's always been a part of, I believe, and I feel in my intuition, it's always just been a part of this temporal kind of existence on Mama Earth, that for us to be born and really somehow have to summon our shadow side, because the shadow, like shadows do, kind of hides, in the wings, whereas our sun side, our sun sign, or our frontal face, like that's gonna come out and everybody's gonna see that, but you're most likely gonna hide your shadow, just as shadows hide behind bodies, in their displacement with how the sun shines down. So we're always going to need to understand our sides, our self. If you want to awake, you have to go. You're not going to find it in success in the material world. You're not going to find it in love of any other human being than yourself first. You're not going to find it in you're not going to find any kind of ritualistic or any kind of holistic or any kind of manner, whether it just even be whether it be gardening or cooking for people or serving. I mean, all the good things, serving, and all the good things that come from the actions that you do, first need to begin as contemplation and thought within. You can go out and do a bunch of service projects and believe, and actually you will cause and effect, receive good things back from it. But that has nothing to do with you understanding yourself. It has nothing to do with you truly going into your heart and awakening. You can be awake by engaging in very healthy, holistic practices. Like, you could do yoga and it will provoke and evoke the feelings that need to be felt, the aliveness, and will actually maybe help you want to go inside. But it's not the same as going within yourself. It's not the same. It doesn't cure your illness in the way that truly going into your heart will. It won't awake you like this one thing will. You can't look for anything outside yourself. You don't own your children. You're not your children. You're not your mom. You're not your dad. You're not even the person that you think that you are. You're not your physical body. I mean, you can't be, right? Because if you were your physical body and all your limbs were cut off and you survived, would you say to yourself, well, I'm not me anymore because I'm not my whole physical body? Well, some people would say, well, I'm still me because I recognize that those limbs were just a piece of me. But were they? I mean, were they? Well, of course, but if they were a piece of you, then is not all of you a piece of you? Is not your head? Well, I can't live without my head. If I got my head cut off, I would die. Okay, that's true, but is it not just one more piece of you? We're not our bodies. We're something else. And I do, in fact, think that any kind of action that will come out of you is beautiful, but will only be strengthened and fully presently awake, very easily awake, when you've dug up that heart of yours. And heart, I say heart, that's metaphorical. We think of heart, we talk about heart as heart because it's like the most vital organ that we possess. Now, go ahead and contend that, whatever. But you know what I'm talking about. Like, it's vital. It's our life-giving fucking organ. It pumps our blood. It regulates everything, you know, like. So when I say heart, I don't literally mean, and I know y'all know this, but I don't literally mean your blood pumping heart. But then again, I do. Because when we do this magic and stuff, as I said in the beginning, I do not think that we're separate. I don't think our physical is separate from our spiritual. I think it's true. Our physical pieces are not us, but the workings of all the cells and all the things that on the much smaller molecular level that actually keep our pieces together, or you know, they go and they grow old and they do their gravitational kind of, you know, they're gravitationally affected. I mean, the physical is affected, and I do think that the protons, electrons, neutrons, that's all affected too, but our skin and our limbs and all that is being held together by this incredible network of biology and chemistry, and it's the geology of our planet, which is our bodies, you know? It's the underworkings that really holds together the surface thing. So I do think that doing yoga and doing service, because that's an emotional, mental thing. That's the workings of the brain, and this all comes together. But truly, when it really, so you cannot neglect. I mean, there's got to be balance, but work how you can work. Baby steps, but really the essential part of it. I mean, the heart is, break it all the way down to its tiniest that we can perceive particle. And that particle is like a little tiny being, like you and me, working with a bunch of other beings that comprise the heart that comes and pumps, and you know, and then we have to talk about the philosophical sense of, well, what is actually occurring? What is the heart? What is the heart? What do you mean by metaphorical heart? Well, you know, and then I have to bring in emotions, and you know, we come into this world and we cry. Why do we cry? I mean, they say the amount of pain that a baby must go through to get through the birth canal has to be excruciating. I don't even know. I mean, this is stuff that I'm not sure about, but why do we cry out when we're born? We can philosophize on that all day. Are we conscious before we are born? When are we really conscious? Well, there's lots of theories on this. Do we cry out because we realize we've come into the chaos and that we got to rearrange the pieces back together, and we know we're going to forget? Well, when it says that we need to look into our own hearts if we want to awaken, because looking outside is for dreamers. What do dreamers do? Dreamers sleep, right? Dreams are great, but your sleep don't really get much done, do you? If you slept your whole life, you'd have a great, wonderful dream on it. You wouldn't have to do nothing, but nothing would occur. It would all be fantasy. Look inside your heart to wake. The heart somehow is symbolic of our deepest knowing, our deepest lifeline, the silver cord, the thread back to God, the emotion, the ultimate emotion, the ultimate thing, that the I, the you, the I and I, that thing. And I believe that in alchemy, what this means is stop looking for things to fill that hole that you feel of non-satisfaction, because it will be a constant search. You want something to shift the real way that you feel? Do you really want something to change what you're chasing? And in fact, maybe stop any kind of chase and in fact cause a desire to walk away from the chase and look for something absolutely out of pure intuition. Going into the dark of the cosmos. That really, that last quote that talked about Thesaurus, I'm sorry guys, roaming through the dark regions of the cosmos. I mean, glows like a star out of the depths. They're talking about somebody who's roaming through the cosmos and is picking things up, some kind of treasure, but he's feeling through it in the dark. He picks it up, and each little treasure that he picks up, he glows a little bit more. And he glows like a star out of the depths of the darkness, and you can see it. Why? Because little bits of information and experience create a majestical glow of wisdom. And the only way that that can happen is a pure heart who's willing to, a pure intention willing to go into the dark and gather the pieces by touch and feel, because it's an unnavigated cosmos. It's an unnavigated place deep down inside of us. We have to trust when we close our eyes. You know? And then it says, he points the way to the gates of the sun and to the land of dreams. This is where I think it reverses itself at the end. So, Thesaurus gathers these little pieces of light, and then he becomes the North Star, or the North Node, the direction that you want to go. Look up North and South Nodes. Most important thing that you need to know in your astrological chart, in your natal chart, North and South Nodes. North being where you want to go, South being where you came from. He becomes the North Star, and he's pointing, where is he pointing? To the gates. What are the gates? Gates of heaven. Congratulations. You have stepped up one level of enlightenment. You got a gold star. What do you want to do now? Well, what is it you want to do? You want to go back down to the land of dreams and help out other people since you got this far? All right, go on. So I think that's what they're kind of talking about in the Philosopher's Stone. Maybe that's the heart, you know? Maybe the stone is the heart. More on this later. Running out of time. Thanks for letting me just kind of ad-lib and kind of just like improv into this. As always, much love, guys. Oh, also, shout out to Ra Imhotep L, who is really inspirational to me. If y'all have not heard of him, it's a guy on YouTube, 13 Signs Astrology. He's pretty out there. Really got to go with an open mind, y'all. But there's an incredible wealth of information that this fellow has poured out of the gracious gloriousness of himself. And there's just years and years of videos. And I don't know what's up with this person right now, but this person has all my fucking love. Really, I would do anything to help this person out, really, because this person has granted those who seek wisdom to be found. All right, again, much love, everybody. Go check out 13 Signs Astrology. Ra Imhotep L. Ra, R-A, Imhotep, I-M-O-T-E-P, and then L-E-L. Get learned, get schooled. It's important. Till then, go inside. Go find that heart of yours.